Infrastructure announcement today. Queensland,
Yes.
not faring that well. Population to dollar, is it?
Oh, no, I think we've done incredibly well. There's always a lot of money flowing into Queensland because you've got a lot of Queensland
Twice
LNP
as much for New South
MPs.
Wales and Victoria?
No, you've got a lot
Happy
of
with that?
Queensland LNP MPs who are absolutely flying the flag for Queensland, getting a lot of infrastructure bang for our buck.
But not compared to
because
other
of
states.
Infrastructure. No, that's not true.
From today's announcement, it's true.
I don't think that's true, Tom, because we have a lot of projects that have been over a number of budget cycles that are pouring money into Queensland to get us the infrastructure that we need. If we had a state government, a state Labor government who was more willing to chip in rather than continually holding out the hat for their budget failures,
All right.
There would be more in the tin. But right now, it's the federal government doing the heavy lifting.
What have you made of today's announcement, Amanda?
Well, look, quite frankly, when it comes to infrastructure, the government has a lot of big announcements, but they failed to deliver. There was some big announcements before the last election on car parks, park and rides. They've failed to deliver that. So I take most infrastructure announcements with a grain of salt when it comes to this government because they don't often get built.
SA did pretty well on a population versus money footing, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, once again, there are always a lot of announcements with this government, but not often a lot of delivery.
If you want to hand some of the money back to Queensland, Amanda, if that's your announcement, you're quite welcome to do that.
Ultimately, that's what I want to see is infrastructure money that gets spent, that delivers economic return. It isn't about pork barrelling. It is about economic return for the country.
More money into infrastructure than any government before. And we'll
Announcements,
always have,
a lot of
have
announcements,
more
not
money.
a lot of delivery.
It was interesting because we had the minister on, just for example,
Yes.
Gawler, the electrification of Gawler, and I know I'm getting a bit nitty-gritty
Yeah, sorry,
here. But it was announced
today.
today, and it's actually $60 million more for it for the same project. It's just more expensive. I mean, announcing that today and 3 years ago, that's double dipping.
But that's not the only infrastructure project.
No, it's not.
And to
But you
not
understand
announce,
cynicism.
and to not announce extra funding means that project would have ground to a halt, right? So
Well, it ground to the halt when
Maybe
you
there
announced
could
it
be
didn't
maybe there
deliver.
could be an
Serious
announcement section and a
commitments.
re-announcement section on the media release.
It would make it easier for journalists, perhaps, Tom. But
Bit of
we are
transparency.
we are simply upfront about how much money we're putting into each project. What terminology you want to use for it is your own. But we are putting more money into infrastructure, and we can do that. We will always have more money for services because we're better financial managers, and we don't have this endless spending like the Labor Party.
I would say that you've gone into quite significant debt and deficit, Julian. So
it was up to you,
I don't
Amanda,
think that line came out of the old playbook.
No.
It's not really relevant
for
anymore,
example,
is it?
you said the world and the sky would fall in if JobKeeper ended. It hasn't. It was up to you. You would still
Well, what
have
about that?
broad
That's a
brush
good
spending,
point.
right?
Yeah.
JobKeeper, the landing's been better than Labor predicted. Isn't that true?
So to be quite frank, if what the LNP are
was a
saying
yes or no. You
and the
can give a yes or
Morrison
no. It
government
better,
is
hasn't it,
saying
than what you
is
said.
that there are no businesses, every business should be happy, that everything's back rosy for every business across the country that's been affected by COVID, then they're living in a fantasy. I talk to businesses
Hang on.
all the time
We can't
that
go
are affected.
anecdotal, though. We're looking at the macro right now. Labor said it will be a disaster if JobKeeper ends. It's ended. Has it been a disaster?
Well, we called for targeted support,
the answer, I think,
ongoing
you're looking
targeted
for.
support. Of course, I'm pleased that things in the economy are doing better as a result of the hard
better
work
than
of the
Labor thought.
Australian,
That's fair enough.
than
More jobs than
economists
before the
predicted. It's better than some economists predicted.
And you predicted.
But to suggest that somehow there are not parts of industry through no fault of their own that are still not struggling, while restrictions stay in place and while the borders are shut, we'll have businesses that will struggle. Until the LNP get their vaccine rollout right, then they will still continue to struggle.
Just briefly on this then, I mean, tourism businesses in Queensland, they're going to fold from now on without support and they can't survive without international visitors. Do you feel for them?
Well, of course, and that's why there's still targeted support.
These loans aren't going to do the trick, are they?
We want to support Australian business as we have throughout the pandemic, but we have to be careful on the international borders, Tom. You know, Australians have made a lot of sacrifices to get us into the great position that we're in, enjoying a lifestyle that other countries in the world aren't able to enjoy.
Sounding like state premiers now.
No, I'm
This has been a bit of a reversal for you, Julian.
I'm just urging caution because, we want to be careful about these hard-won gains. The borders will reopen in the future, but this pandemic has taught us not to go too far in advance, to make the decisions with the information you have in front of you. We will need skilled workers in the future, but right now we're focused on the vaccine rollout and a pandemic budget to support Australia.
We'll see. I wouldn't get too excited if you're out there looking to book an international holiday. We're clearly getting that rhetorical push.